Welcome to the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast, where we remember a time when stacks of cards were held together with rubber bands and Mickey Mantles were put in bike spokes. We hope you will enjoy and reminisce as you come along with us as we tell stories about the baseball cards from the Golden Age of Baseball. We will examine the state of the vintage baseball card market and talk to some of the greatest collectors in the hobby. You won't be hearing us talk about any chrome or shiny cards here. Now, to take you on this retrospective journey, here's your host, direct from the shallow end of the gene pool, my son, Mike Moynihan.
Yo and hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Golden Age of Cardboard podcast. I'm your host, Mike Moynihan, this week, every week. Welcome to the show today, guys, and we're going to have a good time today. I've got a good friend as a guest. I want to first apologize for last week. Back in January sometime, my son hatched this idea. He's 24 and he loves baseball, which makes me thrilled because that's more of an adult thing for him, not as a child. Like, he didn't want to play. He was scared of the ball. I don't know if any of you dads out there have had this happen to you, but it happened to me where my son just didn't want to play baseball. And that was tragic in the moment. But as he's grown older and into adulthood, he really loves baseball, which is great. And he wants to do all the parks. And so he knew that Oakland was going to be moving at some point. And he's like, we got to do the A's, Dad. We got to. And so we did that last week. So I was out of town. I was in the Bay Area. We did Oakland Rangers. We looked at when the Rangers were playing there, and we went to specifically for that reason last week. My wife, Julie, went along with us, and we had a great time last week in the Bay Area. Stayed in San Francisco, went to a Giants game on Friday. They had never been to that stadium. So they got to knock off 2. I got to knock off 1, and it was just a really fun week. But to that end, there was no episode last week. I didn't get around to it before I left. So, making up for it this week, going to have a great guest. He'll be twice as good as my normal guest since y'all didn't get an episode last week. Let's bring him in. We're going to have a fun discussion today. And it's Chris from Missouri. Hey, Chris.
Hey, thanks for the nice introduction. That's a great story about your son. My son didn't want to play baseball either. Matter of fact, I played catch with my son once, and he traded the idea of playing baseball in for playing about 7 or 8 different instruments and stuff. And, that's all well and good, and I'm proud of him. But when I want to go play catch, I can't throw a piano at him,
I'll play catch with you.
Okay, good deal.
Hey, Dad, want to have a catch? It gets me every time. I cry every time during Field of Dreams when Kevin Costner asks his dad to have a catch. Baseball feels familial, right? I mean, it needs to be that way. It feels like it should be a generational thing. And especially if you're a vintage card guy, you think about who your parents loved or your dad or your mom or whoever. It does that. It transcends time. And that's one of the reasons I love it so much.
Agreed. When I think back with my dad's been gone now for over 20 years, died at a real young age. But, when I think of my dad, I think about baseball a lot. When I learning about the game as a 7 or 8 year old, when I was in trouble at the house and my dad got on me for something and the house was silenced, with the tension in the air. And I would go up to my dad, and instead of saying sorry or something or whatever, I would, Dad, who was the starting second baseman for the 1957 Dodgers? And then his temperament would calm down, and everything would be all good again. So
yeah. The first person I texted pictures of me and Palmer at the games was my dad. And yeah, it's generational, and I love that part of it. Speaking of my dad, one of the things my dad always told me growing up especially as a teenager. He said, son, you're going to make mistakes. You're going to do things wrong. But just know it's all about who you hang with. And when I look back on my life, that lesson has stuck with me, because I think all the things that I did that I really shouldn't have been doing, and I look at who I was doing it with, I'm like, yep, probably shouldn't have been with that person, and that's boy or girl. I did some things with some girls I'm not very proud of either. And so I look back on that lesson that my dad had tried to instill in me, and I've tried to live that out in my everyday life and certainly in my hobby life. I don't have time for people that are jerks in the hobby. And so I've been blessed also to have really, really great friends in the hobby. Someday I might consider you one, but no. What I want to talk about today is more than just having friends in the hobby, and it's about who you hang with. I want to take it to a deeper level, in that I want to talk about, Chris, collecting with like-minded people, not just hobby but the hobby in a sense, collect individually. And I think your and I's story of friendship is a testament to that. And I'd love you to tell the story about how we met, how you discovered me, how we met, and then kind of take us forward to 2024.
Okay. Well, I think I might enlighten you on some stuff maybe that I hope you haven't forgot, but I think it might help you remember as well. I mean, to me, it's a neat story. So the way we met is, I'm researching stuff and a little bit frustrated about finding some baseball information and that kind of stuff. And my wife said, you can watch about baseball stuff on YouTube. Surely there's some stuff on YouTube you can find. And I really, this is how big of a dork I was. I did not know there was a YouTube baseball card community. And she said, she typed in baseball cards. And then I said, well, let's make it a little bit more than that, and typed in vintage baseball cards. And if you weren't the first one that showed up on that, you were the second. And I watched your video, and it was the neatest thing in the world. And there's a dude out there that's similar in age, maybe a little bit younger, but he collects cards, and he has some of the same cards that I have. And so, I got down in it, and there was a time, and I won't go in much of it, but about that time, just after I had been watching you for about 2 or 3 weeks, and then that led me to watching a couple other channels too. But after watching you for 2 or 3 weeks, you had made a statement on one of your videos that you thought you were going to quit doing videos for a while. You're a little bit upset with, not necessarily yourself, but with the community a little bit. And I don't know if you remember that at all, but you said you were not going to do any videos. And I had reached out. I didn't know how to comment on a channel yet. Heck, I was watching on TV, and I had stalked you like I was a jealous ex-husband or something. And I looked you up on Facebook, and I'd messaged you, and I remember saying, man, I really would like to talk to you, because you can't quit doing a video. I liken it to me watching a TV show, and they were going to go into the final season, and I would be calling, trying to get a hold of the producer and say, you can't do that. You can't, we got to keep doing this stuff. And then you invited me to, you talked to me about going to the National, and you invited me to come to your meet and greet. And, I was so excited, and I remember sitting down with you. You were so generous at first, a lot nicer to me then than you are now, but you sat down and gave me your full attention, and you had plenty of people around and that kind of stuff that you could have been chatting with and people that you knew, but you gave me your full attention for was a good amount of time. And I remember the words because it just didn't come out right, but I've said it many times since that what your channel does, even though you're just talking about baseball cards, there was an old fat guy in Middle Missouri that thought it was important because I got to share my hobby and with a friend of mine, even though you're hundreds of miles away. Every time I turned on your video, it felt like I was looking at and engaging with a friend sharing my hobby. And I'm in this hobby today for the same reason I got into it when I was 8 years old. I love baseball. I love baseball, and I love collecting cards with friends. And today, I still love baseball 50 years later, and I'm collecting cards with today. And that's how, I mean, that was our first real conversation. And, we've talked a whole lot since, that's for dang sure. So
yeah, that was 2019 or 2021.
No, it was. I've been to 3 nationals. 2021. Sure.
Yeah, it was Chicago 2021. I totally remember the conversation. I totally remember talking to you. I regret sitting there that long with you, but whatever, So not true. It was. What's great is as we've gotten to know each other over the last few years, is we collect very similarly. And I find myself gravitating towards guys that collect similar to me. And I don't know what it is. It's almost like a collector magnet, that's just pulling me in to, there are certain guys that I watch all their stuff because I have friends that I watch their stuff that I don't necessarily collect and I watch all their stuff just because I like them a lot as people. And then I have guys that I watch that are my friends that, man, I just know I'm going to see stuff that I'm either going to A, already have and love seeing them having it, or B, inspiring me to get, whatever, all these things. And those like-minded people, those collector like-minded people, I really gravitate towards. And I'm so lucky to have you, to have Dawn, George, John. There's so many guys, Ray from Philly. There's so many. That's the one reason I loved Ray from Philly from the beginning is he was doing the same set that I was, 300 great cards. And I'm like, oh my gosh, there's someone else just as crazy as I am that's doing this set registry for PSA. He must be a great guy. And I remember talking to him the first time on the phone, and Julie walks in and she's like, who are you talking to? And I said, he's a guy that does YouTube. And she's like, is he going to come kill us? And I'm like, no, he's not. He's in Philadelphia. I don't think he's going to make the trip. And, she was really nervous at first about me kind of opening up to people and putting myself out there in a way that's pretty transparent, pretty like, here's who I am, and she was nervous about that. And I said, look, it kind of is what it is. I have faith in people. Whether that's naive or irresponsible, I don't know. But I think that me doing that sparked the community to be more that way, right? Before it was very hush-hush, like nobody really talked about their lives a ton. It was very private. Here, I'm going to show cards and that's it, And I think that, or I hope at least, I was at least some type of spark or catalyst for people to start really reaching out to each other and doing collaborative things and becoming friends beyond the videos that you might watch and interact with. That it's, hey, let me have your phone number. I can text you. We can talk. We can do whatever more. And I'm sure that happened. Like, I'm not saying that I invented this idea at all, but hopefully seeing, my phone now, Chris, looks like a who's who Rolodex of the YouTube community. And even through this podcast, I have so many people that I've met that have messaged me on Instagram or whatever, and we've never met in person or whatever, but they shoot me pictures. Hey, I got this card, and I love seeing it. I love just going, man, that's awesome. And it's so amazing how it transforms your hobby. And again, more than just having friends in the hobby, having the friends that collect the same to you. What does that mean to you, Chris? Like when you think about the people that collect the same way, how is that different for you?
I don't know how much different it is, but after our first conversation that we had in Chicago, you got up and you said, "Hey, let me introduce you to some people that I believe collects like you." I don't even know if you remember that or not. And you brought me to a table, and there was guys with both of the guys you brought me to the table. It was Dave Blue Jacket 66 and Rick Vintage Oddball Cards, who have, it's super, super great collections. But when you sat me down at a table with like-minded collectors, and I believe, like, even like when we're in a group, when we're in a group, like I was at Strongsville, when we're in Strongsville, we talk to everybody, but I tend to go and listen to the people that I aspire to be like in the collecting world, and I don't know, we seem to have more to discuss when we're talking about cards. You and I both have friends in this hobby that conversations, I mean, tend to be more than just cards. Cards are a great icebreaker when it comes to us. Before a conversation gets started, heck, we're all men, or no, we're not all collectors are men, but in our group there, we all need something to get the conversation going, small talk here. But then once it gets going with me, I can't stop, and grab it. I just we'll find each other in the room, even if we don't know what somebody collects. If we haven't had, if we meet somebody that doesn't do content, but they collect like us, eventually, I don't know, you find them in a room. And this is a bad analogy, but my dad was a lifelong smoker, and he would go into a room, he'd go into a room, and the next thing you know, he would go outside, and he'd be standing there smoking with a buddy, talking, somebody that he just didn't meet, that he just met. I mean, and I think that's how I am when it comes to the card stuff. I mean, it's not, we're, like you say, we're friends with a lot of different kind of collectors and stuff, but we tend to find each other, and and that conversation gets deeper and deeper into cards, and deeper into your collection and stuff. But I don't know. That's how it is with me. I would have found you in a room, and we would have been talking about our collection together had I not even watched your show, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I definitely think that, again, there's this magnetic attraction between like-minded collectors, again, in a room, and certainly in a get-together. And what's cool about, let's say, Strongsville, at that event that you put on, you and I don't have to talk a lot at that event, because we know we can talk tomorrow or the next day, and we can spend our time meeting new people, giving other people time that want to talk to us that may not know us really well, because we know we can talk whenever we want, right?
We both said that to each other before the show. So, I mean, that was on my mind, and I know it was on your mind. Hey, we might not talk a lot during this whole thing, but we'll catch up some other time. And we both said that to each other. And I even said that with Don, when we stayed together, but at that meet and greet, we were too busy, trying to My goal this year was to get a different friend as close as you guys are to me. Add an additional friend, And I've heard you say you're a four quarters kind of guy when it comes to cards instead of 100 pennies kind of thing. But you can never have enough. You can never have enough friends. Now you can have some really closer friends, but it's nice getting to know people and getting to know if they're going to become one of your quarters.
One of the best things about, and I'll give you when find out the same way that you do. One of the coolest things is to watch or listen to them or talk to them and be inspired to. My microphone out of the whack. Can you hear me okay?
I can now.
Okay. When you find those like-minded collectors and you get inspired or encouraged or whatever to do things, or it spurs you on, or I know when Ray and I were we were both kind of the only two guys doing the 300 great card set. And so whenever each one of us would get a card, we'd text a picture to each other, and it was pseudo competitive, although it was never jealousy. It was him and inspiring to me, if that makes sense. Never like I'm jealous. Like that has such a negative connotation. It's nothing but positive. It's like, dude, that is awesome that you got that card. Now I got to go get one, and it's encouragement rather than jealousy. Have you had that happen by watching other people?
Mike, to me, collecting cards in the same kind of the 300 great cards is like playing golf with you. If you hit a great golf shot, of course I want to beat you in golf. I want to beat you in golf, but I've never, miss this putt, or shank the ball. And so, yes, I want you to hit a good shot, but I want to hit a better shot. But if I don't and you win, more power to you. I'm not going to root against you. I'm going to try to beat you the next day. To me, if you pick up a card that I don't have, I'm like, okay, good. That's a beautiful card. I'm jealous kind of thing. And then maybe that I might run into that card some other time. But it's not like, oh gosh, I hope I go to bed and I pray the night before we do a showcase showdown that, Mike loses his cards and that kind of stuff. And to me, that's what collecting, collecting is like, is playing golf with someone. And watching you guys though, I mean, when I watch that and watch you and Ray share your 300 great cards, the first time I remember, man, since you and I collect alike, I got a lot of those cards. Well, I'm gonna. They're having fun. It must be fun for them. Well, then I'm gonna start doing that. And then that did, prod me into doing that 300 great cards. And that way I'm on that same journey with two other people. And I'm not going to discourage somebody else. I'm not going to discourage somebody else. Oh, you don't need to do this. I want to have the best 300 great cards. I still want to have the best 300 great cards, but I love sharing that journey with you guys, and would love it if anybody else wanted to join in on it with us.
Yeah. Yeah. We have in case you guys don't know that listen to this only on podcast, over on my individual channel, which is called Baseball Collector. Chris and I do a weekly series that we've been doing now for months where we basically pull out our player runs of various Hall of Famers. We've done a ton of guys so far, and we have this kind of competition. We call it Showcase Showdown. We each show all the cards we have of a particular player, and we keep score only because it's fun. but we score each other based on what the highest grade is and this and that. And so if you haven't seen that, you should go check it out over on Baseball Collector. But we've done a lot of those, and people play along with us, just like when you encourage that. We want that. That's been a fun just way for us to collect the same way,
It has changed the way that I've collected, and it's kind of tweaked it a little bit. I don't know if it's a good way or a bad way, but I enjoy it because it's encouraging me to get as many cards of a player of a Hall of Fame player. And, in the past, I might go to a card show and look for a card, a big card. But now if I don't find a big card, I'll go by and I'm going to show you this. I picked up a Ralph Kiner card at a card show, and what I'm showing here is the 53 Topps Ralph Kiner. Now, I like Ralph Kiner and all, but it now becomes an important part of my collection, just in case on that magic wheel sometime in the future Ralph Kiner shows up. I now have another card, and I don't know, it's fun, and it's, you have dominated this series, but what is fun when we do it is I get to look at all my cards and have a purpose and a reason to get them out. And it's the best. I say it all the time. It's the best half hour on YouTube, I believe, because one, my friends tell me it's their favorite hour. So, and I get to show cards. So, but yes, watch you guys. You're not forcing me to do anything bad. You're not really encouraging me. You're educating me. And I get to make the decision whether I want to collect that card or not. You're not telling me to do something that I shouldn't do. You're not, if buying baseball cards is a sin, then I guess you're encouraging me to sin. But I don't think God's going to get upset with me for buying a Ralph Kiner 1953 Topps card. So,
as long as it's not in a higher grade than mine. The people to take from this is, I think there's a distinct difference between influencer and inspirer, for lack of a better word. And I don't want to be an influencer. I have zero desire to influence people. I want to maybe show people a different direction or a way to enjoy the hobby. But you said at the very beginning, I'm enjoying doing this. And if you said, man, I really hated buying this, I had to buy this Ralph Kiner because I don't want to lose to Mike or whatever, that would be a really bad reason to buy a card. It needs to be, hey, this has opened up a whole new avenue for my collecting, and I love doing it, because we were both doing the same thing. We've said this before. We were doing it differently. You were buying years of cards, buying a full run of a year, and I was buying player by player, or was it the other way around? It was the other way around, maybe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But either way,
yeah,
they coalesced. Your style, my style coalesced into us both having player runs. The way we got there was slightly different, but you were on that path anyway. And I want to encourage people, not influence them. Don't buy a card just because I said it's cool. I hope you think it's cool. If you go look at the card and you think it's cool and want to go buy it and add it to your collection because you hadn't heard of it before, all the better. But it's not ever from if you don't buy this card, you have a terrible collection, or any type of language resembling that, where it's making people feel bad or whatever. It's no, here's what I have, here's what I love. Maybe you'll love it too, maybe you won't. That's okay. But finding the people that love the same stuff you love is really, really fun. It adds a whole new dimension to the hobby. It adds so much more people to share it with. Most of us hear it all the time from other collectors. They collected in a vacuum, just like you did before you discovered YouTube, or you collected with local friends, people at your card shop or whatever. And what social media does, whether it's Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, whatever, you can discover all these different people. There's a Facebook group that I'm on that's Diamond King, autographed Diamond Kings, guys. You know, I've never met any of them, but I'm like, when I found that Facebook group, I was like, holy crap, there's a whole bunch of people that like sign Diamond Kings, not just me. And that it's really, I've been able to find some cards there that you guys had dupes or whatever. And that's been a great avenue. So it's not just, it doesn't have to just be YouTube. There are forums, whether it's Blowout or Net54 or wherever, somewhere out there are your people. I guarantee you there is someone that collects very similarly to you out there. And our encouragement here, and the whole point of this conversation, is for maybe you to be encouraged to go out and intentionally try to find those people somewhere, somehow, because it changes your hobby. And Chris, I'd love for you to talk about how just YouTube alone, for example, has changed your hobby in a positive way.
Oh gosh. As far as my collecting baseball cards go, getting on YouTube is the second greatest thing that's ever happened to me besides getting the cards. You know, collecting the card, but YouTube has made my world a lot smaller. It's made my world smaller, meaning, you know, I am able to share experiences with somebody from Texas, somebody from Arizona, somebody from California, Pittsburgh, all around. And it's like they've moved onto my street. And as a little kid, and I, you know, trading for a card, you know, back in the day on my street, I would run over to the neighbor's house and say, look what I got. Look what I picked up. Well, I made a trade with my friend Ty, and look at this card. Well, now everybody's on my street, and it's so fun. And you know, I'm 57 years old, and I'm going to card shows like I was 12 years old again, as far as being overwhelmed. And it's not just, you know, it's not just being overwhelmed with the cards and the people selling the cards. It's being overwhelmed with other guys that collect like me. And it is just, you know, it's just so, I don't know. It just makes it so much sweeter. And, you know, you picked up a big collection, and I got to celebrate along with you because you shared that with people and you talked to me about it privately. And, you know, without this YouTube stuff, you and I that wouldn't have happened. We would not have, you know, I would not have been able to celebrate in people's successes and nor shared any of mine. And, you know, I was, you know, the only thing you may have influenced me into doing was starting a YouTube channel.
Okay, I'll take credit for that. Yes.
Yeah, and you know, I don't pay attention to anybody. And even if you said this, hey, here's the 5 cards you need to buy now, or here's the 4 cards you need to buy. You know, sell these cards and stuff. I'm grown. I don't need to. You know, I'm smart enough to not listen to that. But when you kept telling me, Chris, this is fun. I mean, just do a video. It will change your life. And, you know, and that sounds so deep. So, you know, I don't know, sounds weird. Like I didn't have much going for me in the first place. You know, here, do this, it'll change your life. But I'm telling you, there are so many like-minded people in my little realm right now that I don't know if I could ever stop, because, you know, I've made these friends I want to keep these friends, and I think I'm confident enough to know that I've made lifelong friends, and it makes me want to hobby more, and it puts it up, besides religion and family and stuff. It brings me about the most enjoyment of of my day, of my week, and of my month, and of my year, is I get something to look forward to.
Is that working?
Working now.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
About the technical difficulties. The audio is probably not as good, but it is what it is. The hobby is supposed to be fun, right? And you say it all the time, have fun. And I think we're both echoing a point of you can make the hobby even more as fun as it might be for you now. If you're listening to this, you're watching this, and you don't have that kind of group that you just think alike, and there are cliques in the hobby. There's no question. There's groups of guys that just gravitate towards each other and they become friends, and that is fine. We all come together for different things like Strongsville or the National or whatever, but find your little group. And Chris has nudged his way into our little group, and I'm very glad that he did. However many 4 years ago, and it's been great getting to know you, Chris, and being your friend. So I appreciate you, and yeah, guys, make the hobby more fun. Any final thoughts, and we'll get going?
Well, just one quick thing. I believe a person needs a hobby, period, to keep their mind going as they get older, and to have something to do. And I'm faced with it right now. My mom is not very old, and a couple of her brothers aren't very old, but they're at retirement age, and should retire. But my mom refuses to retire because she doesn't know what she wants to do. And this is, whether you choose this or something else, everybody needs a hobby, and you need to enjoy it. And if you do have a hobby, find out what can make it more fun. And what makes it more fun with me is being able to collect with like-minded people like you and the friends that you've helped introduce me to. So that's my last and final thoughts, Mike.
Love it. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in this week, and we'll catch you guys next week for another episode of Golden Age of Cardboard. Have a great day, have a great week, and keep collecting.